What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to give my Spider-Man 2 release date prediction. So I like to do this from time to time. I'm kind of spotty on release date predictions. I get a lot of things right predictions-wise on this channel. I get a lot of things wrong. So take it, obviously, with a grain of salt. It's just me, your friendly neighborhood Alex, telling you about this stuff. And like I said, you can't really bank on any of the stuff that I'm saying here. One thing I do want to say before I get started, though, is if you guys do like this stuff, if you guys have liked my Spider-Man coverage, make sure, as always, you guys are subscribed, have the bell icon turned on. And also, if you guys are not following me on Twitter, Podcast Now 15 is my Twitter handle. I have a lot of fun over there. I know Twitter generally is a pretty toxic community, but I genuinely, and this is truthfully honest, I do truly love the Twitter community that we've put together here. I really, really do. So again, Podcast Now 15, link for that's in the description below. All right, so in order to do this, I think what we need to do is build where Sony is going over the next couple of years. I think we can all be fairly certain that this is 2022. Now, what's interesting about this, what's truly interesting about this is, remember, leading into Miles, before we knew that Miles was even a thing, which to me was a big shocker when they announced that, right? Right before that, over the last, from this time last year until we got Miles, there were tons and tons of rumors about Spider-Man 2. There were things talking about co-op. There were things talking about Winter. There were things talking about Venom and Green Goblin and all this stuff, right? Loads of, and all these different gameplay mechanics and features of Spider-Man, all this stuff, okay? A lot of it seemed pretty legit. Now, some of it, I do actually remember making videos, and one specific part of a leak, they literally came out and said hey, I just made this up, okay? But remember, a lot of the leaks and rumors kind of piggybacked on one another. So there'd be one huge drop, then a few weeks or months later, this guy would copy pretty much everything said and then give a little bit more information. So I've been following this, I would honestly say, for quite a while, okay? I believe a lot of the stuff that was said in those. And why do I say that? Well, one of the biggest components of those leaks was it was a fall 2021 game. Okay. Now, again, Miles happened, and Miles had some of the stuff, mainly the winter period, which was a big focus of how the PS5 was going to take advantage of the technology to be able to do winter, that Spider-Man 2 would take place in the winter. Now, Miles did, and I thought they did a pretty good job at it. Now, if Spider-Man 2 picks up at the very end, let's say, which it seems like it will, of Spider-Man, it's still in winter, so we still could have Spider-Man 2 be a winter, period piece. We'll have to see. That'll be a big, in my opinion, that would be a big sign of, is the rumors, were those rumors that are now around a year or so old, were they true? Because if they're true, one of the biggest things was the setting and atmosphere and time period, which would be winter, okay? So again, why do I say all that? Well, the winter stuff, the different aspects of gameplay, but also 2021. I don't think this game is 2021. I want to believe it. I've wanted to believe it all the way through Miles' announcement. Even when Miles got announced, I wanted to believe it. But the more I'm thinking about it, the more I just don't know. They've talked about Horizon Forbidden West. They've talked about God of War Ragnarok. They haven't talked about Spider-Man 2. Now, one thing I will give them is you don't talk about a second game at your own studio when another game is going on. Now, I guess there's technically a loophole to that in that Insomniac has done that with Ratchet and Clank, but that's a different franchise. So when you have a game, you know what I mean? When The Last of Us 2 is coming out, whether or not the Last of Us 3 is being made, currently, which I don't think it was at the same time as Last of Us Part 2, you would never say that. You would never talk up The Last of Us 3 because you're doing The Last of Us 2. So for this, again, same thing. You're not going to, while Miles is being promoted, which, as we've seen, they promoted that thing for months and months, every single day, okay? Which is, again, up to you guys if you like that or not. They're not going to also say, hey, let's just take a brief break from Miles Morales because we know we want to sell that game, but let's talk a little bit about the fact that we're making Spider-Man 2. Obviously, they weren't going to do that. So we'll have to see how they go about the next year because, okay, Miles is out. I don't think there'll be DLC, considering this really is a really big, it's not a DLC game, but come on. I mean, they've even admitted, this is a lost legacy. This is a infamous First Light, right? This is a big, a bloated, in a good way, not in a bad way, of a DLC, right? I don't think they're going to have DLC for basically an exaggerated DLC. Okay, so again, over the next year, we'll have to see what they do if they do very heavy promotion for the next game. Now, Sony in general, they do show their games pretty early before they release. Miles was held off because of the PS5. Spider-Man 2, you could argue, was held. Really, any game for next gen was held off because of next gen. I think over the next year or so, we not just Sony exclusives, we're going to see a lot of games for next gen that they probably could have talked about or shown over the last year, but didn't because they were waiting for next gen to be formally announced, which happened over the summer. Okay, so I think 2022. I think that because again, 1 year from now, that's a lot. Then you would also, if you did that, that would be 3 Spider-Man games in 4 years, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, and you had 3 Spider-Man games in that time. That's asking a lot. Now, Miles, again, it is a lot of the same. This is not like bagging on Miles, by the way, because I absolutely loved Miles. It's a lot of the same, but there was so many changes, and obviously they had to make a lot of things, whether it's from scratch or they had to just make a lot of things in general. I mean, like it or not, that took probably a lot of time. That definitely, I would imagine, took away from everybody focusing on Spider-Man 2. So I wouldn't say like that delayed it, but it definitely, I think, was a plan where it's like, okay, let's make this game, let's have maybe a smaller team do it, all this stuff, and then let's really try and get Spider-Man 2 made maybe as quickly as we can, but I just don't think they're going to get it for 2021. So again, time period-wise, in terms of like how many games in so many years, not necessarily the greatest. Another thing is like I want them to kind of take their time with next gen. Like Spider-Man 2, and people have said it, like this can be a massive jump. Like God of War could be a really good indication of like what we're getting with the PS5. It could be. It could also not be if if it's also on PS4, or maybe if it just comes out in 2021, maybe it's not enough time. Whatever. The next Uncharted game could be a good look at like what we're gonna get for the PS5. But Spider-Man 2, I think for a lot of people, for maybe tens of millions of people, is gonna be a really good look at like this is what the PS5 can do. So I want them to have. I'm not rushing them. I don't want them to rush. I want them to take as much time as they need. I think, again, 2022. Next year, let's talk about next year really fast to kind of build what they're doing here. We have Ratchet & Clank. We have, in my opinion, The Last of Us Part 2, the PS5 version, as well as Factions mode, along with the multiplayer, which don't write that off. That's a really big deal, truly. Kenna Bridge of Spirits, don't write that off either. That game, to me, looks absolutely incredible. I cannot, now, maybe it's just me. I can't wait for that game. I know a lot of people are very excited for the game as well, though. You have Horizon. Now, Horizon, again, I will stand as firm as humanly possible. I will put my feet in the sand here. I'm telling you, there was a video when this game was first announced, and they said, Guerrilla Games, they said that they were aiming for this game to come out in the spring. Now, we had a PS5 ad about a week and a half ago, and it said Horizon is coming out now in the fall of 2021. That game has definitely been internally delayed. Sony's just not going to say anything. You'll have to trust me on that one. That's fine if you don't want to believe me, but I'm telling you, I have never been so confident on anything. Okay? I really do think that's what happened. God of War. Now, God of War only had some teasers. So, I guess cutting to the chase, Horizon is probably the fall's big game of next year. You look at every fall, Sony tries to have something. Last year was Death Stranding. It was okay in terms of, not like I love the game, but in terms of like people that bought it, didn't do, I think, as well as they wanted to, but that was the game they really were going at. This year, Miles, easy. And obviously, there was a lot of other PS5 games as well, but Miles was that big game. Next year, I think Horizon. I think Horizon was supposed to be spring. God of War was probably supposed to be fall. If Horizon was delayed, I'm telling you right now, God of War is delayed. I'll make a video on that specifically on its own, but I really do think that's the case. So I think next fall's big game is Horizon, which would put God of War for the big spring game of 2022, which sounds familiar, doesn't it? Because God of War 2018 came out in April, so spring of 2018. God of War would be that spring. Now, by the way, there's other games. Like I said, I do think there's an Uncharted game out there. I think there's many, many other games that are being made that will fill in some of the missing pieces. But the big, big games of like spring and fall is what I'm kind of talking about. Horizon will be big fall 2021. God of War will be big spring 2022. And then I think you hit us big and hard with 2022's fall with Spider-Man 2. 2 years after the PS5, there's your big fall game. It's 4 years after 2018 Spider-Man. Spider-Man, plenty of time. I mean, really, it seems like the best case scenario in my mind. Gives Insomniac the most time, gives people, I'm not saying people need a break. I mean, it's been 2 years since 2018 Spider-Man. Now we get Miles, and it kind of feels like we've gone home. Like, it feels very familiar. It would be the same thing again in 2 years. I would, obviously there's going to be a lot of, updates and upgrades and a whole new thing, but I mean, it's going to still feel roughly similar, right? I think it works. I really do, and I think it's going to sell PlayStations. I think 2021 is important because you need as many people as possible, I would say, to get the PS5 within the first couple of years. So 2021 obviously is very important, but then if you come out in 2022 and say, all right, look, we have the PS5. It's been out for over a year now, a full year, because, when it comes to like January 2022, it's been out for an entire year. We get it. People don't necessarily need to have gotten it the last year, but now it's game time. 2022 is game time. God of War Ragnarok, you're not getting that thing on PS4. You're getting a PS5. Spider-Man 2, you want that in the fall, you get a PS5. I don't really see that. I don't really see a better way of doing it, to be quite honest with you. I really think that's a really good way. So I will say, and I will even go so far as to say September, because I really do think that they try to stick with familiar months. Now, obviously, Miles was November. I'll say September, though. September of 2022 is when I think Spider-Man 2 is going to release. So let me know, guys, in the comments below. What do you think? When do you think the game is going to come out? As always, make sure, again, you guys are subscribed to this YouTube channel, Podcast Now. Hit the bell icon so you guys know when these videos go up. Again, if you guys haven't followed me on Twitter, Podcast Now 15 is my Twitter username. Would love to have you guys over there as well. Again, I really do love the community I've put together over there on Twitter. Thank you guys so much for watching. I truly do appreciate it. I hope to see you all on the next video.